Every now and then, I ponder. What does make an MMORPG great? Is it the social aspect? Is it the great narrative and huge monsters you fight alongside your companions? Is it fishing? Oh, it's definitely fishing. I may not be able to figure all of this out right away, but when I tried out different MMORPGs over the last few weeks, I realized. I can definitely tell you what drives me nuts when playing them. And since people tend to love these, have it in a neat little top 10. Now there's more things that annoy me, but those are the biggest pet peeves of mine. Here we go! Imagine you start a new character and you're immediately faced with classes and race options. Wow, there's so many! You read through them and decide you want to be this cool ninja-looking dude. Okay, let's check what races there are for them. Is this some sort of bug? Do I need a DLC for the race options? Nope, it's race and gender locked. Great! This is such a silly thing to do by developers. Terra is by far the worst offender here, with several classes only being playable by female characters, since most of their players apparently like playing female characters. Well, what if I don't want to stare at a 5-year-old child in spandex all day? Well, I'm shit out of luck is what I am. This also goes for race lock, which, if it ties into the lore, is fine, but otherwise is just annoying to me. Why couldn't undead be hunters in World of Warcraft? Since forever. It makes no sense, the leader is literally a hunter. Ugh. On that very same note, if I do play a female character, why does she wear less and less the better her armor becomes? This is referring mainly to Terra, but other games fall victim to that as well. It is silly, it makes no sense, and it just takes away all the immersion I had if the tank that stands in front row is wearing epic nipple twirlers of death and decay plus 10 with an armor enchant. Nope, it's just silly. If I want to look at soft porn, I'll consult the internet, and if I want to do that while playing an MMORPG, I'll just open it on my second monitor while doing some kill quests. This also goes for male characters, by the way. I needn't see the six-pack of my guy all the time when he's wearing armor. Gladly few games actually make your character wear spandex which show your character's bulge. And I like it that way, thank you very much. While we're still on the topic of cosmetic things, imagine you're playing a game with a deep and rich lore, a low fantasy world set in a scenic and beautiful place filled with wonder, mystery and excitement. And once you start your adventure, you visit the capital city, and the first thing you see is a girl wearing a skimpy Santa outfit with a huge lightning sword, who's sitting atop a huge elephant that has laser beams for tusks. This is a huge immersion breaker. Silly things totally can belong into an MMORPG, but not if said game tries to be somewhat realistic or grounded in its own reality. Wildstar or World of Warcraft can easily pull stuff like plate bikinis off, since they're fairly wacky in what the world is like, but low fantasy games just shouldn't. Yet again, looking at you, Terra. But enough of this whole cosmetic shtick, let's have a look at... Bad segue aside, I'll immediately get to this point without describing it a whole lot. Excessive RNG makes me go crazy. World of Warcraft is by far the RNG heaviest MMORPG on the market right now, where you can get best in slot gear by doing easy and regular content like freaking quests.
But that happens so rarely, why does it bother you?
Because getting a reward you don't deserve and is basically so good you needn't replace it until the next patch just feels stupid. I did not suffer from bad RNG when playing Legion. In fact, I had the best trinket for the Demonology Warlock with the highest possible Titan Forge level. I got it from the first boss on normal difficulty in the Emerald Nightmare, which is the first raid. And I've also received a legendary that is pretty decent early on. Did I feel like I earned any of this? No, legendaries just felt like that one thing everyone gets eventually. Getting this orange item just feels more like a relief of not needing to hunt them down anymore than a joyous occasion. And don't even get me started on getting a bad legendary, because in World of Warcraft right now there is a no legendary drop system in place where the longer you haven't received one, the higher the chance becomes to finally get your first one. If you get a bad one, it's reset until you get another one. Great, thanks Dad. This also means world quests sometimes give you better gear than you got from any heroic or mythic dungeons and raids. A simple kill 10 Murlocs quest awards you better gear than you received for beating hard group content with your friends. Are you kidding me? Many might think this is not a big deal, but it is to me, and to many others too, at least from what I've gathered personally while speaking to people on Reddit and other boards. People don't seem to like it, I don't like it. That's about it. Next! Okay, let's see. This MMORPG has click to move enabled by default, but that really feels awkward. I'll just have a look at the options and disable it. Okay, this game isn't running all that smoothly. I mean, I do have a 144Hz monitor, it's probably just VSync. I'll look into the options menu. Man, there's a ton of spell effects in combat. I'd really like to tone that down. Let's see what options there are. I can't really make out what this guy is saying during combat. I bet there's a slider for dialogue volume of NPCs. Let's see if I can crank that up a bit in the sound options. I can't see my cute anime character with one of those voice effects. Can't not lick the ground. I need to move my freaking camera monitor. I need to move my camera. Not having options for small things may not be as important to some, but it just drives me fucking nuts. Especially those 4 points seem to come up more often than not. Mouse movements can't be disabled in any X-Legend game, FPS is just locked at 60 or 100 for Elder Scrolls Online unless you go into the config and change files, special effects can't be toned down in almost all MMORPGs, and most of them are just huge effect fests like in Marvel Heroes, and dialogue sliders are absent from almost all MMORPGs I've played, even counting WoW, which had 3 or 4 expansion packs out before implementing it if I recall correctly. Give us options for these things. Please. Thank you. So there's this one huge MMORPG with this open world, and you've been playing it for a long time, you finally reached level cap. The possibilities, the excitement, what should you do first? At the start you feel overwhelmed, but just a week later, you realize this huge world is meaningless. The game's almost fully instanced, heck, you even get teleported to the dungeons you need to go to. What happened? Why is it so hard for MMORPGs, especially theme park ones, to put anything of interest into the world? Yes, there may be a few world bosses, but those amount to nothing but multi-man Zerg fests till the big guy falls down most of the time, which is not really interesting. World quests or dailies are a thing which most people don't really enjoy and usually just do to get the reward, which is a pretty stupid thing all things considered. They don't enjoy it but do it because they really just want that carrot on that stick. Stuff like Suruma in World of Warcraft is amazing. Long, interesting, lore-relevant quests which tell a big story. More of this. It may take a lot of effort, but please do put stuff like this into your games. I really enjoy this type of content. Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2 nail this fairly well. There's tons of stuff to do in the world, even at endgame, and even when you are at endgame you can just go back and have scaled content towards your needs. I just wish it was all a good bit more meaningful. But I guess that's reserved for the more old school MMORPGs to come, like Chronicles of Illyria, Pantheon, and all the others. Let's hope that one of those runner-ups can rekindle the fire that the worlds of MMORPGs so desperately need. Developers really don't have it easy when designing worlds, it seems. They need to be filled with life, and just saying, "fill it with stuff," is definitely easier said than done on my end. This does not mean they can get away with making their own world small as all hell, or just make it appear way smaller than it actually is. MMORPGs are supposed to be these huge multiplayer role-playing game experiences. You're treading down a path that many others have, but it leads to so many new places, it's insane to think all of this is in one huge game. Having things like excessive fast travel options to anywhere, like teleportation or flight points, can ruin this fairly quickly. These usually are unlocked by visiting them once to get back to them later on, which usually works kind of fine if there's not too many of them. But things like autopathing, or even worse, an overworld to travel through the actual world, just kills it. X-Legend games could be fun, except they just need to be different games apparently. Why bother playing a game when I can press a button and it doesn't just tell me where I need to go, no, it makes me go there. Why even bother playing at this point? When a game has autopathing, I just can't bother to play it anymore. It's basically telling me that traveling through the land is so boring, you might as well automate it to get over it. A counter-argument might be that you may or may not have visited a place 10 times already, to which I raise awareness to fast travel again. It usually involves a bit of in-game currency, so it doubles as a gold sink, which is great if done well. A good example of autopathing fit into your world without making it seem small is Black Desert Online. That game's so huge, but they didn't want you to teleport or fly everywhere. I can kind of live with that, that's okay. All in all, finding a good middle ground between travel time and fun stuff to do really isn't easy, but I personally lean towards traveling a bit more and doing it on your own. You discover fun things along the way if the game's designed well, even if it's just a pretty sight. Bronze medal, huh? Well, that goes to crafting. I love crafting. Professions are something I love getting into, and World of Warcraft always has me fishing, cooking, mining, and smithing away. It's just a shame that leveling most professions in that game is a waste of fucking time, since they wind up being absolutely useless once you reach endgame. This usually goes for gear crafting professions and theme park games, but for some reason, WoW never got this right in 12 years. The one time gear crafters were useful was in the first expansion, the Burning Crusade, and that meant that the gear you could craft would last you throughout almost the entire expansion's endgame. The cool thing about that was that most of the weapons at least could be upgraded with materials from higher up raids. Those materials weren't bound to the players who looted them though, so you could just go ahead, buy the weapons or the mats for the weapon and get your best in slot sword while still being at the beginning of the add-on. Once more, a middle ground demands to be discovered, but to be honest, I prefer games which really reward crafting. From what I've heard, Elder Scrolls Online basically requires you to craft your own stuff, otherwise you're just screwed. I love this, but I do see how people wouldn't enjoy that either. Then again, hammering your own weapons into shape with materials you gathered meticulously yourself is infinitely more rewarding to me than just killing a boss and getting lucky with a drop. Make crafting great again, MMORPGs! You can do it! I'll get right to it for this point because it is very dear to my heart. If leveling in your game is boring, I won't bother playing your MMORPG anymore. Period. Time to get colloquial. Dude, if I don't enjoy the first 2 hours of most games, I'll just delete them off of my SSD. Shit takes up space, yo. If you're telling me that your game takes 20 hours to begin being fun, then that game just did something awfully wrong. Imagine if Ocarina of Time had you not collect 40 rupees to start off the adventure, but 40,000. It's just a meticulous grind until you get to the parts where the developers actually gave a hoot about their game. Worst offenders here are clearly World of Warcraft and WildStar, both of which offer crazy experience boosts and even instant max level or close to max level characters. Here, pay $50 to skip the shitty part. Really? What the hell have MMORPGs become that you can just charge money to make people skip your shitty content? That's just silly. It's only 10 hours of gameplay, by the way. Or 20, it's not long anyway. Blizzard themselves admitted in an interview that after Cataclysm they were absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they'd need to do in order for leveling to be a coherent and fun experience again. Which is why they just made it faster and faster over the years instead of bothering to actually reprise this shit. This saddens me so much, even without using heirlooms and all of those XP boosts. Most zones in that game are out-leveled just by completing their quests fully. Additionally, leveling is just way easier than anything else in the game. You can chain pull dozens of mobs without dying with several classes. Dungeons are soloable with heirlooms even when you have 5 levels under the recommended level, and don't even get me started on low-level PvP. This is just bad design everywhere, and Blizzard knows this but doesn't care. People would rather do their dungeons and raids a billion times than level even one more character after a revamp, so they aren't allowed to care without risking an outrage by the players. This is a plea to MMORPG developers and designers, by the way. Never make your leveling way more boring than your endgame just so there is a goal for players, or because most players have reached endgame. It is a big part of your video game, and every part of it needs to be at least enjoyable. Make sure that it is. Thank you, have a nice day. Next point. Now it's time for honorable mentions. The first honorable mention goes out to combo counters. Some games have these and they just distract me like crazy. Let me disable them at the very least. They're just big flashy numbers sprouting up on my screen. I don't need to see this. Another honorable mention goes out to blinking shop icons. Most free-to-play games have an in-game store, and I didn't want to bring the whole pay-to-win aspect into this, but if I get pop-ups telling me to buy stuff, a blinking and shining icon for your store that's bigger than most other UI buttons, and also quests which can only be completed by buying an item from the store, just makes me want to say fuck you. Immersion levels have thusly reached a critical point, by which I mean I'm deinstalling a shitty game. The last one goes out to bland character customization. No races, 8 faces and 10 hairstyles? Impressive! Everyone looks absolutely the same. But no worries, there's huge angel wings which glitter and shine and give you bonus stats. Just pay $50 and you can have them right away. So after all this, what is the thing you do all time in MMORPG? What is the most fundamental little thing that, if not executed properly, kills your game despite a million other good features? What could be this significant? What is number one? Well, it's simple really. It's shitty controls. Now before you're confused, let me explain. If your MMORPG feels unresponsive for one of many reasons, it hinders movement from A to B, it makes combat worse than it seems at first despite having cool abilities and mechanics, it makes traversing and exploring the land a chore, the list just goes on and on. Controlling your character and menus is all you do in MMORPGs. Thus, if your controls and menus are awkward, I couldn't give less fucks about anything else in your video game. The biggest killer for me, I named already, are things like click to move being always on, but there's also animation lock. If your character's blazing sword ability is a combination of 6 huge swings and forces me to stand still while my character slowly attacks on, said attack feels really stiff to use. Why can I not use my melee attack on the move? Then there's not being able to use instant cast abilities on the move. Why? It's instant! That's entirely the point of instant cast abilities, being able to cast them on the move. This is why they're usually a bit weaker or combo into other abilities. Combat aside, there's the age-old issue of invisible walls and collision detection in general. I highly praised the controls of WildStar and will use it as a defining example of controls done right in MMORPGs, but World of Warcraft isn't too bad either. The invisible walls issue is a thing though. Why can't I jump on this small railing on a staircase? Make it a wall then. Or allow me to jump on it and over it. It works for hundreds of places in the game. Why not at some specific points? Another thing is, what happens if I press forward? Does my character immediately move? Does he take a second to get moving and stop? Things like these can quickly make or break a game for me and probably bother me way more than they should. The worst offender here and winner of shittiest MMORPG I've ever played are two actually. Aura Kingdom and Twin Saga. Play them to encounter the clunkiest controls ever seen in an MMORPG. You can kind of stutter step while attacking, instant abilities can't be used on the move, click to move is on 24/7, and there's auto-pathing and obvious follow the guidelines for quests since no one wants to move manually in this game apparently. Okay, whatever. This concludes my list for things that annoy me in MMORPGs. What do you think? What are the things that annoy you the most? This was Cursal, have a good one. Bye bye.